Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. We're going to be covering Ignister Mathmech again today. In the last deck primer, I showed you how to full combo with Circular, but I also wanted to make sure that I showed you how to full combo with some other cards as well. So we're going to be using Silent Mining here, just discard a random card, and then I'm actually going to grab backup at Ignister, and I'll show you how to do a full Mathmech combo with only backup at Ignister. We're going to start by normal summoning and activating the effect. Let's go ahead and add the Wizard at Ignister from deck to hand. And then we can just go ahead and discard another random card from our hand. Alright, now we can link off the Wizard at Ignister for Lingaribo. We'll throw that right over here. And now that we have a Cyberus monster special summoned from the extra deck, we can special summon our Wizard at Ignister by reviving the backup at Ignister. Doesn't really matter which zones you place them in, because we are immediately going to Synchro Summon into Firewall Saber Dragon. Alright, now on summoned Firewall Saber Dragon, let's just add back one of our monsters from the graveyard here. We're actually going to add back the backup at Ignister because we have not used the special summon effect yet. So, although that's not really super relevant because we're going to special summon it another way. I'll show you that here in just one second. First though, we're going to link summon into Splash Mage by using Firewall Saber Dragon and Lingaribo as materials. This will trigger the Firewall Saber Dragon's second effect. When sent to the graveyard as a link material, we can add an AI spell card from deck to hand. We're going to add I Connect, or AI Connect, however you want to pronounce it, which we will then subsequently activate. We can reveal that backup at Ignister that we added back with Firewall Saber Dragon to not only special summon it, but now we can add a non-dark level 4 or lower Cyberus monster from deck to hand. And this is how we're going to get access to our Mathmech engine, as we can now add the Mathmech Circular. And from here, I mean, it should be relatively simple to play out the rest of your Mathmech combo line. It's just a matter of like comboing to get all the boards, or to get all the bodies on board. But one thing that is pretty notable is that you're not going to have necessarily immediate access to 3 Mathmech names in the graveyard, so we do still have to set that up. We can go something like Circular Dumping Sigma in order to special summon, then activate Splash Mage. We can use that in order to revive that Sigma that we just dumped. It'll trigger the Circular effect, allowing us to add the Super Factorial from deck to hand. Now we can go into Almbertian using these two. And then we can activate the effect in order to add a Mathmech card from deck to hand. Now, a lot of the time we'll grab Diameter off of our Almbertian, but in this line we already used our normal summon, so here we're going to grab Subtraction or Addition, whichever of the extenders from hand that you're playing. Or even if you're not playing either of those, you could also grab Equation to get into their body here. Alright, now from here, let's go ahead and make Link Decoder with our remaining backup at Ignister. And then we can get our Transcode Talker online using Splash Mage and Link Decoder. Alright, Link Decoder F activates. We can revive that right over here. Let's go for Transcode F or Splash Mage. Alright, and then now we're going to set up the Terahertz using Almbertian, Link Decoder, and then Transcode as 3 materials. Alright, so in this instance, we do kind of have to use our Terahertz in order to help set up our Super Factorial. Yes, we did get a third Mathmech name, but we still don't have Diameter set up in the graveyard, which is really ideal, right? Because if Diameter's in the yard, then obviously we get our Omni Negate. So we're actually going to use the Terahertz here in order to dump Diameter. And then we could dump D-Save Worm during our opponent's turn. Another way that you could do it if you wanted more bodies here is you could dump Dotscaper on this turn in order to summon it, and then Diameter on the follow-up turn to get the Omni Negate. It really just kind of depends if you want to maximize board or maximize negates. I'm going to go for dumping Diameter here and then D-Save Worm on our opponent's turn, just to show you what it looks like with fewer bodies, but just know that if you really want another body, you could dump Dotscaper now and then Diameter later. But let's dump that now, and then we're going to activate the effect of our Subtraction, targeting the Splash Mage and then summoning. Alright, and then yeah, let's just go ahead and wrap up by making the Heat Soul here. Go ahead and get our Heat Soul draw. Set the Super Factorial. And there you have it. There's full Mathmech setup off of just the backup at Ignister. Now, if we had some in Dotscaper there, we would have had Splash Mage plus the Dotscaper body, of course, plus the Mathmech Subtraction in our hand. We could have gone 2 of those bodies into G-Golem Crystal Heart. G-Golem Crystal Heart would have revived Transcode Talker, and then we could have made the allied Code Talker at Ignister. Granted, if we had done that, we would not have had access to Heat Soul Draw, and we would also not have access to D-Save Worm / Diameter. So you can get the extra Omni Negate on board here, but you have to give up one of your negates in order to do it. So it's really a matter of preference of exactly how you want to play out the board from there, but I just wanted to show you an example of how you can do full Mathmech plays without even opening a Mathmech card, thanks to the Ignister support. Alright, there is the combo line I wanted to show off. Let's take a look at some gameplay now, and then I'll show you my post-banless deck build at the end of the video. Alright, this first duel is going to be a going second game against Fiendsmith Snake Eye. Interestingly, not playing either Azumina or the new Mitsurugi stuff, but always still a little bit scary to go second against Snake Eye. Thankfully here we do have the Fulos. Hopefully they're not going to have Ash Blossom or Callby or something. This is pre-banless, these gameplay, these duels that we're going to watch here. And so this build does have like 2 Callby and stuff in it, but overall, it's not very different from how you would play at post-banless either. But it's going to lead with Fiendsmith stuff, and you'll notice that I'm waiting for the Fabled Lurry to hit the board before I chain the Fulos here. I've said this in multiple videos before, but I much prefer to play Fulos and Max C this way. It gets your opponent to waste some of their resources, right? Like if I draw phase Fulos and they truly didn't want to play into it, they could just pass and then try to do Fiendsmith stuff on a follow-up turn. But now I force them to at the very least commit Lurry to the board, which means they won't have access to these resources later if there is a follow-up turn. Granted, it doesn't really matter here because they have an Ash Blossom, but every now and then I get people asking why I use Fulos and Max C when I do. That's why. I really like to get not only the max amount of draws ideally, but it's really more about wasting the opponent's resources if possible, right? Alright, they're going to continue to do their Fiendsmith combo line here. As you can see, I've got no more hand traps, so at this point I'm sort of left to the mercy of whatever my opponent decides to do here. Alright, they're going to leak off into the sequence. Sequence F gets to activate. They're going to fusion summon. Looks like they're fusing for the Fiendsmith Lacrima, which will then activate in order to revive the other Engraver. And I actually forget what they make here. Oh, they go for the Temple next. Temple setting up Birch of all monsters, interestingly. And then they're just going for the Appaloosa. Yeah, you can definitely tell that this is a pre-ban list, but it'll still be a few days before the ban list by the time this video comes out, I think. So, thankfully for me, it looks like my opponent didn't really have the ability to actually do Snake Eyes plays here. They really only had their Fiendsmith stuff. They're just going to go 3-mat Apo pass, but that probably means these 2 cards in hand are hand traps. You know, you got to figure if they're not plays, they're probably, you know, off-engine. So, gonna lead with Small World, testing for another Ash Blossom here, and they immediately concede. Which I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting to at least have to play through the Appaloosa. My plan here was to go for Small World for Ash Blossom first in case they had like a Maxi or something. If I went circular and they negated with Appaloosa, we could simply try to Synapse Mining for a different extender, like Subtraction even. We could go Subtraction F on the Appaloosa, get it to activate, and then just normal summon. That would leave us pretty defenseless on our opponent's next turn though, so I don't know. See, that's the thing. Like, I think there was a lot of interesting potential to figure out exactly how to play Fed-Appaloosa. I just kind of wish our opponent had given us the opportunity to do it. But at the same time, I won't be complaining about easy wins. So let's take a look at our next duel. Okay, this one is a going first game, but we lost the coin flip because we're up against a pure Gem Knight deck. So they're trying to do like the going second OTK. You know, with all the UR materials we're about to get refunded, if there's nothing in the next pack I want, I think I might actually craft some Gem Knight cards and try out Gem Knight decks. Alright, I'm gonna lead with Small World here. I tried to use the Droll to search for Ash Blossom, because really if you open Circular and Small World plus another monster, you really want to be using that Small World for an Ash Blossom, as of course Maxi and Fulos are going to be the hand traps that are best against you. Unfortunately, there really wasn't a way for me to bridge Droll into Ash Blossom here, so I decided to grab Diameter instead. If you can't get access to an Ash Blossom, I think Diameter plus Circular, this 2-card combo is like the next best way to play around hand traps, because you can go Circular, send Sigma, normal summon Diameter, Chain Link 1 Circular to chain block the search for the Super Factorial, although we already have that here, and then Diameter revives Sigma. And not only can you now go into Almbertian with the Omni Negate to protect against hand traps for the rest of the turn, but we can still use Sigma's graveyard effect because we haven't used it yet, right? We use Diameter to revive Sigma. So, granted, this will mean that the Sigma gets banished, but we also just add the subtraction to our hand anyway, so that doesn't really matter here. Alright, from here we can go into Wicked. The combo line that I showed off at the beginning of the video was for opening backup at Ignister and then pivoting into Mathmech plays. If you want to start with Mathmech stuff and then pivot into backup at Ignister for more bodies, Wicked is how you do that. My previous deck primer covered that combo line. I'm going to link that in the description below in case you want to see that combo. But here we have access to more than enough bodies here. We're making Transcode Talker, Link Decoders coming back. We still have both Wizard at Ignister and a Mathmech equation in our hand. Now, even though we didn't search it, our opponent's probably going to assume that we have the Super Factorial in hand just because we searched the Mathmech equation. Or at least, if I was playing against Mathmech, that's what I would... If they search equation turn 1, then I would just assume they have access to Super Factorial already. Yeah, here we can make Splash Mage, go into backup at Ignister. This lets us make the Heat Soul. Heat Soul F to draw. Yeah, I don't really need the Link Decoder, or not Link Decoder, Terahertz dump here. Since we only have D-Save Worm, we're not playing D-Save Worm and Aggregator, and I actually don't want Dot Saber here, that'd need too many bodies. Now, I made a little bit of a misplay here. I intended to only revive Heat Soul. That way I could leave up enough zones for Super Factorial on my opponent's turn, while still having the Almbertian Omni Negate through the end of the main phase to counter a Nibiru. But unfortunately, Allied Code Talker's revive effect, you have to summon as many as possible. Not up to as many as possible like I thought. So I'm forced to revive the Transcode Talker here, which means I actually can't activate Super Factorial unless my opponent frees up one of my zones, right? Like, if I had 2 zones free, then I could use the Allied Code Talker, sacrifice Heat Soul to negate something, and that would free up a 3rd zone. But now I'm kind of stuck here. And again, the reason I didn't use Almbertian as a material is because it still had the Diameter Omni Negate. So if they had a Nibiru in hand, then I could protect against that through the end of the main phase. Although, to be fair, I really should just linked it off for the Allied Code Talker, because then I would have had a negate anyway. But, well, actually, I wouldn't have, because this has to... Yeah, this has to tribute something that it points to, and Terahertz wouldn't have pointed to it. So I actually would not have had Nibiru negate there. Alright, so we're going to lead with Lightning Storm. We're naturally going to use D-Save Worm to counter that. See if they got another board breaker. It's Thrust. I'm going to let them search off of that, and I'll just negate whatever they search, which is going to be the talent here. Definitely want to negate that. I don't need them taking control of my Terahertz here. That would obviously be very, very bad for me. Alright, they Sales Ban to call the Laplacian. So, my Super Factorial is dead anyway. So that Sales Ban actually does not do a ton here. They're going to go for the Gem Knight Quartz, setting up the Brilliant Fusion with the Dispersion. or rather dispersion for Quartz to set up the Brilliant Fusion. And here we're going to fire off that Max C we got off the Heat Soul there. Alright, Brilliant Fusion's going to fusion summon for the Lady Brilliance Diamond. And right off the bat, we're finding a Nibiru. So I'm already feeling really good about this, as far as, like, me surviving this turn. I'm going to throw out Lancia here, because I know that Gem Knight does have a decent amount of banishing effects. It's not like Malice or anything where it has to, you know, banish a ton to full combo, but I know they won't get that negate, for example. I think they're going to search it here in a little bit. And there's also, yeah, this one. They won't get the Hollow Core negate. And there's also the Gem Knight Fusion Graveyard effect. They won't be able to use that either to add it back to hand, which is definitely not nothing. It's definitely matters quite a bit here. Alright, here comes Master Diamond. So we're coming up at the point where Nibiru is going to be live, but you'll notice that I'm not firing it off right away. I want to wait until a point in where my opponent's exhausted more of their resources without putting a negate on the board. Now, if you don't know your opponent's deck very well, this can be a little bit tricky, right? Knowing exactly when Nibiru in a situation like this. It's very easy to Nibiru too early and let them still have resources, and also too late and have them have a negate on board. But I've played against Gem Knight enough that I kind of know how they combo, so I know once they turbo out their 3 fusion bodies here, now I can just Nibiru them, and they won't have access to anything else, and yeah, they're just going to concede right here. Not only that, but by waiting, I was also able to maximize the amount of draws I got off of the Maxi. Because initially, I didn't have follow-up plays right off the bat, right? I needed to draw those into the Maxi, or draw into those off the Maxi. So, yeah, you know, Nibiru tends to be the trickiest hand trap to use, but if you know your opponent's deck well enough, you can get them in a situation where they've not only exhausted all of their resources, but you're also setting yourself up for success in terms of your own resources you have access to. So, alright. Let's check out at least one more duel here, and then I'll show you the deck breakdown. This final game is going to be up against Memento, and we're going second. Kind of a blast from the past here. I haven't played against Memento in quite a while. I suspect the deck is still, like, at least tier 2, if the, you know, pilot is very, very competent with the deck. I never did put up that Memento guide I wanted to. It almost feels too late now. Maybe I still will. Anyway. We're going to lead with Anguish. This is a huge misplay on my part. I just fired off Ash Blossom, and thankfully it didn't come back to bite me. But that was a huge misplay. You absolutely should be Ash Blossoming the horse, the Totsuno Toshigo, which the Anguish would have searched. It would have been very easy for my opponent to have had that in hand, and then just would have had full combo anyway. So, definitely a misplay there on my part. Lancia is like... It doesn't stop Memento from full comboing in a lot of situations, but it does stop the graveyard effects, particularly the graveyard effect of Fusion, which is pretty relevant. There's a decent amount of hands where they do rely on that search, so... Alright, they're going to try to Ash Blossom my Firewall Dragon. We're going to use the Cross-Out Designator against that. That way, or the Defensor, not the Dragon, but that way I can grab the Firewall Guardian. Don't love giving up my Lingeribo here, because obviously they have a face-down card, but we have to in this case. No choice in the matter here. I'm going to go for Splash Mage, Revive the Defensor, and then overlay Defensor plus Guardian into Almbertian. Going to try to use this to pick up on Mathmech plays here and find the Circular. And thankfully, it doesn't seem like the face-down card is much of anything just yet. Circular dumps Sigma to special. We can use Almbertian sack itself in order to revive the Sigma. Will trigger the Circular effect. Obviously, I would normally grab Equation here because it's turn 2, but I already have Equation, so now I'll grab Super Factorial. Alright, here's their face-down card. It's Super Poly. They're going to fuse the Link Decoder and the Mathmech Circular together in order to make the Earth Golem add Ignister. Which, to be fair, from my opponent's POV, this is probably the best time for them to Super Poly, because they don't know I have Equation in hand. And I'm out of graveyard-based extenders, and I only have Splash Mage on the field. So that was a good patient play on my opponent's part. If I didn't have a follow-up play in hand, then yeah, that would have absolutely been a turn ender. But we do have the Equation, so we can continue our line. It's worth noting that the opponent's fusion monster, the Ignister card they super polyed into, Earth Golem at Ignister, stop them from taking damage for the rest of the turn. So I was not able to OTK them there. That said, we could just do our turn 1 plays, as well as still battling over the bodies they have on board. We've already got Super Factorial. I've got Droll and Lancia for the follow-up turn, so feeling pretty good overall going into the opponent's turn, even if we can't do damage here on ours. But yeah, there's some games where we lost the coin flips there. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the deck build, the deck breakdown. Okay, so here's the list. One thing that you'll probably notice right off the bat is that I'm only on 1 copy of I Connect. And I've seen a lot of the builds that are playing this card, playing 3 of it. But one thing I found when I was testing various builds is that you really don't need 3 copies of this card, right? If you open back up at Ignister, you can still do the Firewall Saber Dragon line with only 1 copy of this card in your deck. And the main reason that I'm only playing 1 is because I much prefer Small World. I've seen people talk about using this card as a starter in Mathmech, right? But I think it's a very situational starter because in order to really make proper use of it, you really do need to open one of your Dark Cybers monsters. Whereas Small World, you can open literally any monster in your deck and it'll always go into Circular. Plus, Small World can also search stuff like Ash Blossom if you already opened Circular. So I really, really like Small World. I think this card is phenomenal in this deck in particular, just because the bridges are so easy. And I think it's still absolutely worth playing a playset of Small World in Mathmech. So that's why I'm only on 1 copy of AI Connect. I would much rather open Small World than AI Connect in a lot of hands. There is also the Firewall Defensors for Dark Cybers monsters to open alongside AI Connect, but again, if you've already opened Defensor or Backup at Ignister, you can already do full Mathmech combo, you know, even without having also opened a copy of AI Connect. You can just search it off the Saber Dragon. So that's why I'm only on 1 copy here. But otherwise, it's a pretty standard post-ban list build. Even though the ban list, of course, isn't in effect yet, you'll see I'm only on 2 Droll. I've only got the 1 call by here. And, well, we don't play Appaloosa, but even if we still did, it wouldn't be. So, obviously, this deck in particular is not super affected by the ban list changes, but I do plan on covering some decks that would be normally playing Appaloosa and show you how to combo without that here in the upcoming days. But yeah, I already had the gameplay lined up for Mathmech, so I wanted to start this week with this video here. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it. If you have any questions about the games or the build, as always, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And look forward to some more post-ban list gameplay. But if you're eager to see those post-ban list builds now, you can always join as a YouTube member below with the join button next to the subscribe button. If you do that, you get early access to every video. You can see them as soon as they're uploaded, which is sometimes up to a week early. And you also get your name featured at the end of every video. Plus, it's a great way to support the channel. Could not do without that kind of support. So anyway, that's going to do it for now. Let's thank those YouTube members and patrons in our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.